So, welcome to this live broadcast here on YouTube, and I want to talk a little bit about very simple concepts of making and saving and adding a bit of money. See, at the moment, we are absolutely, most definitely, in a real cost of living crisis. We all know it. Everyone's talking about it, and the question is, what can we do about it? One of the difficulties is there's a lot of people waiting somehow for something to get fixed. In other words, somehow magically somebody's going to swoop down and save us. And whether you're a political fan or not a political fan, what you can do is to understand that, frankly, when it comes to it, no political party can help you. And often when we start to talk about this, people will think, mistakenly, I think, that it is a selfish thing to start to say, you've got to look after yourself. What do I mean by that? Well, let's think this through. Although there are those people who will say what you've got to start doing is putting together a fairer society, a more reasonable society, everybody's got to play their part. The reality is, for the vast majority of us, we're actually driven and we are influenced by what our family needs, what our nearest and dearest needs, whether it's our children, our partners, older relatives. That is what it is that drives it for most people. I'm over on YouTube. If you want to come and join me there, just hit the swipe left, hit the profile, and come to the YouTube button. I'm just trying this new experiment. We'll see how it goes. So it seems to me that the big difficulty is people get caught up between being selfish and being practical. And the reality is you can't save the world. You can't save society. You can't save everybody else. You can't save everybody against themselves. But what you can do is start to look after and make some help, put some support towards those who are most important to you in your life. And that means your family. That means your loved ones. That means your children. It means those people that you can most closely influence. And I think one of the big shames of current society is the way in which lots of people are really working down the route of somebody's got to come and save them. It's got to be somebody's fault. The whole language that we use now, people are triggered. People don't like what's happened to them. People feel upset by choices made by other people. And I think that is a dangerous route to go down. It's a dangerous precedent. Ultimately, we're all going to be responsible for our own thing, right? If we accept that, ultimately, what we can do is affect what we can do. What I mean by that is exactly what I was just saying. It's impossible to try and push other people to do what you want, but you can be responsible for yourself. Now, when we talk about this, there's always going to be somebody who describes this as selfish. When I talk on TikTok, my channel's there, we'll talk about, we talk about rich and less wealthy people and how much tax everybody pays. And the majority of people that don't get that start getting very upset that I'm arguing wealthier people should pay less tax. Whereas by their reckoning, wealthier people should pay more tax. Have you ever looked at the percentages? The percentages are insane. Wealthy people are already paying considerably more tax. And I'm just talking about PAYE. I'm not talking about the mega millionaires or the billionaires who might have a variety of interesting and exotic ways of channeling their funds. I'm talking about normal, everyday people. So the difference between 20K income and 50K income and 80K income and 100 and 120, 150K income on PAYE is huge. And there's no point going, yeah, but the person who makes more money, they get to keep more of their money. They earn more. They should keep more of it, but they don't. The tax system is wildly unfair. The whole way that certainly the UK is set up is that you've got this section of people that are increasingly required to pay for pretty much everybody else. But I'm not here to whinge about it. I'm not here to moan about it. I'm not here to grumble about it. I'm here to point out that if you want more wealth, if you want a greater degree of comfort in your life, what you've got to start considering is what can you do to sort out you. And taxes are taxes. What the council's going to charge you is what the council's going to charge you. All the other things that happen that you have no control of, that is just what they are. So what can you do in the current situation? Can you earn more money? Can you cut back and spend less money? The first choice has got to be to spend less money. That's got to be your first option. And most everybody says there's no more cutbacks I can make. But I'll point this out. In the UK, certainly for the last 3 months, while we've really been seeing this cost of living crisis bear down on us, we've also seen massive queues of people at the airport. Now, I don't wish to be indelicate. I don't wish to be cruel or unkind here, but that's a whole bunch of people that are saying they can definitely afford the discretionary spend of going on holiday. Now, when I point that out, people get wildly offended. People say, you say I can't have a holiday, I work really hard, it's not fair. You should do what you want. But you can't argue both ways. You can't argue that you are absolutely flat broke and you can't squeeze anything out of the budget if you're also going on holiday. You can't make that argument. When I point that out to people, as well as becoming very defensive, they become quite offensive. And people will say things like, yeah, but the difficulty is I'm just working to live. Surely there's got to be some pleasure in life. Yeah, there should be. Absolutely. But the solution to that isn't then spending money you haven't got and then complaining there's a cost of living crisis and you can't afford anything. If you can't afford anything, you certainly can't afford a holiday. You can't afford that nice car, whether it's lease or rental or buy or whatever. You've got to find other ways to make money go further. You can't afford, if clothing is your thing or tech is your thing or games are your thing or streaming platforms, whatever your costs are, you've got to start to find ways to bring those costs down. Now, that's an unpopular message. And when I make videos on that, they don't do very well. Isn't that interesting? A little while ago, I made a video on TikTok that upset a lot of people. And it was a similar theme. It was, if you've got the money for an iPhone 13, and yet simultaneously you complain you can't afford a home because homes are expensive, and then you choose to blame landlords or government policy or whatever else, then you're missing a key point. And the key point is the cost of that expensive phone could have gone towards the deposit for your first home. Now, again, many people willfully misinterpreted that. Good evening, Si. Many people willfully misinterpreted that and said, well, you're saying that if I hadn't bought a phone, I could have bought a home. And I'm not saying that. See, people have this strange theory. If you say anything that is remotely critical, that light's not so good, is it? If you say anything that is remotely critical, then automatically they become very upset and feel very challenged. I'm over on YouTube if you want to come and join us. I feel very challenged about what you're saying about them. None of us want to be criticized. I'm not unrealistic. None of us want to be criticized. But equally, if you can't afford to do something, somebody needs to come along and say to you, well, look, here are your options. And there are two options you've got. You can spend less or you can make more money. That's it. This isn't difficult. All those people all over TikTok and Facebook and YouTube and God knows what else, who are all selling these amazing ways for you to have more money, the reason you go for those is because they provide a quick win. And that quick win isn't actually going to get you the quick win. All it's going to get you is a few pounds out of your pocket into their pocket. Most people want the same few things. All right? You ask anybody, and however well hidden it is, this is what it boils down to. I want more wealth. I want a better relationship. I want better health. That's it. Pretty much every single human you know wants at least one of those three things. What's more, you want it now. You don't want to work for it. And you want it easy. And you want to be told that anyone can do it. And ideally, it's super fast and super cheap. Now, when I explain it like that, it demonstrates how ridiculous it is. I see a couple of messages come in there. Sorry. Young generation, I'm 26, so I can say it, are stuck in a finance culture, don't see monthly payments as a potential lump sum in the future. Yeah, great point, Greg. So this is the problem. When you see people like other influencers who make out that all you need is a ballsy attitude and a cigar and a load of tattoos on your chest and a bald head, and you swear a lot and you'll get what you want, you're falling for a very obvious trick or plan. And part of the challenge perhaps that anybody has if they're trying to grow a channel, as I'm trying to grow a channel, is do I tell people what you want to hear or do I tell people what you need to hear? You see, saying to people lots of swear words and you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, but that's clearly not true. That's not the way life moves on. That's not how any of us get to where we want to get to. And the points that I'm making, you want better wealth, you want better health, and you want better relationships. That's it. That's pretty much what it all boils down to. So if you are finding on TikTok or Facebook or YouTube or whatever your favorite platform is, if you're finding adverts that are saying, I've got the foolproof course, anyone can do it, it takes 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night. If you're saying that and falling for that, the reason is the copy of the advert is keying into those primeval needs and requirements that you've got. And you can apply it to literally anything. So, for example, I pre-pandemic, most weeks would be in front of 2, 3, 4 audiences. I'd often speak to several hundred people at a time. Now, let me give you my pitch, because this is genuinely, or was genuinely, the way I used to work before the pandemic. Most weeks, I didn't have to go to an office anywhere. I would do things like, hey, Mark, I would do things like either fly or go on a train or drive, and the client would pay that for me. Right? Sometimes I would travel first class, either because it would be paid or I'll just pay the extra and go to first class. That was the first point. That's quite appealing. Second point, I would then nearly always stay in hotels, often very nice hotels. Not to be snobbish, I find those who F and blind in discussions tend to be less intelligent, educated, and can't articulate their arguments. I think you're probably right there, Greg. And it's not snobbish, it's just an opinion. So I would go and stay in these nice hotels. How's that for articulate? My meal would be paid for. Frequently, there'd be a free bar. The breakfast would be paid for. And then I'd be treated for that day a bit like a superstar. I would have a venue to work in, have a microphone. I'd have people helping me. Audiences would come in and get lots of applause at the end. It would be amazing. And here's the best bit. I would get paid a lot of money. Right? And compared to digging a hole in the road, or standing in a shop, or being on a call center, or I'm trying to think of some jobs that I might find quite tough. Pretty much anything you like, right? Compared to any of those, this was an absolute breeze, because my work would be the hour or the 3 hours, or in a long one, the 6 hours of the conference day. Now, I could take that, and all of that is true, right? None of that is exaggerated. That's exactly what it's like being a conference speaker. I have done it for years and years and years. Haven't done it for the last 2 because of the pandemic, but prior to that, that was pretty much how I spent my time. Now, I could take the reality of that and I could then bundle it up into a sales copy. And I could say, how would you like to get paid 500, 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, maybe even 10,000 pounds for a day's work? That's not an exaggeration. And by the way, when you get famous, it goes way up from there. Those are pretty much starter rates. So then I could say, how would you like to travel everywhere and have your travel paid, stay in hotels, have your meals paid, even have your drinks at the bar paid? Again, all still true. In other words, I could grab your attention. And then I could go into the copy and tell you how a few years ago I was struggling. This is also true. In my 20s, I was flat broke for 4 or 5 years on the trot. I would bring home 120 to 150 pounds a week. And then I could build up the hard luck story. And I could say, most weeks, or certainly most months, I was phoning around the electric company and the mortgage company and the water people and council tax and everybody I could think of to try and get a little bit more time back to my bank, try and get my overdraft. I could give you the hard luck story, because that's going to key in to most people's hopes and fears, right? And we're on the fear side at the moment. This is the hard luck backstory. I could talk about the difficulty in my relationship. I could talk about how I always felt a bit embarrassed when I went out with my friends who had more money. They had proper jobs and I was trying to do this thing and it never really worked. And then I discovered this secret. And I worked very hard and I built up and built up and built up. And I could do the apprenticeship part of this. And then I remember the day I got £25 for an hour's work, which became £50 for an hour's work, which became several £100s for an hour's work. And then went on and up from there. And I could tell you the story about how I went to Kenya and how I went to Anaheim in the west coast of America. I could tell you I was speaking in New York and how I was speaking in Indonesia, how I stayed in 5-star hotels. And by this point, you'd be going, oh, this is really nice. It sounds amazing. And then I could say, and now I can teach you the same. It took me 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to learn. Again, all still true. But I'm offering this to you today for the one-off price of blah, 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 blah. And you have seen, haven't you? You've seen this exact pitch dozens and dozens of times. Hello, Minecraft. I think Theresa May charged up to 130,000. Yes, absolutely. I would genuinely buy your autobiography. Blimey. Thank you, Greg. I'm sure it's not that interesting, but thank you. And 130,000, yeah, absolutely in scope. That's very, very likely. I know some professional motivational speakers on the lower end, and they're on £5,000 to £10,000 for 1 hour. So absolutely. Now, I could tell you all of that, and then I could tell you how anyone can do it if you've got the training. And that's true, but it misses out a key component. I'll come on to the key component in a moment. Then I could tell you that I guarantee that I can help you. And I would call it the Speakers Academy, something like that. And I would absolutely guarantee you, because if in 30 days or 60 days, whatever term we put, you hadn't got your first sale, I would give you all of your money back. And here's the interesting thing. Did you know that if you say 30 days and I will give you your money back, very few people will claim it back, whether it works or not, because most people won't even get into the content. Most people will download the content, glance the first page or two, and then get distracted. So here's the next trick. I'm going to make it 60 days. No, I'm going to make it 90 days. If you make a massive period of time like that, you very rarely get any returns. And then what I do is I bundle all sorts of additional value. I will bring you into my secret group, my mastermind group. I will give you my speaker notes I used in the very first session that I still use today. I will give you the template that allows you to write a speech in 5 minutes rather than 5 days. I will give you my best opening gags. I will give you my best closing lines. I will give you stories you can use throughout. You can adapt these to suit yourself. I will give you my best jokes. In other words, I give you an enormous amount of content. And all of that is bundled on if you buy now. And everything is so irresistible. You want this, and you want this because you want the money. Yes. You want better health. How does that tie in? Well, simple. If you're making £1,000 or £2,000 a month just because you're starting out, you don't have to get all the stresses and strains that normal people do. You're getting enough money to take all the stress off. And relationships, of course, it will help your relationships because you'll have more money. You'll be more relaxed. You'll be lovelier at home. You won't be worried all the time about paying your bills. It sounds like share trading scams. It does, Mark. It sounds exactly like every scam you've ever come across. That's the point. And what I want people to understand, and I'm banging the drum a little bit on this, and I'm trying this on YouTube tonight, a little bit different. Hi there on TikTok, but I'm trying this on YouTube tonight. Part of the thing that I'm sharing with people is this. All of those things, many, let me rephrase, some of those things are scams. Many of them are absolutely genuine, but the bit they miss out, this is the bit that I alluded to earlier. The bit they miss out is the reality of the situation. See, I'm a very, very good on-stage speaker. I'm pretty good on camera, let's be honest. But part of the reason is it naturally fits my skill set. And I have worked, I don't know if it's hundreds of hours or thousands of hours. I've got to say hundreds of hours. No, it's got to be 20 years. It could be, couldn't it? It could be 4 figures worth of hours to get to the level of ability that I now have. Hard work, yes. How do you sell this? I'd like to do a speech for £500. Okay, what business life experience do you have? I did a course. Exactly, Greg. And that's the bit that is always missed out. So you see, the bit that people don't tend to put in those pictures, whether it is share trading or crypto or Forex or FBA, Amazon FBA, or drop shipping, or what are all the common popular ones at the moment? Print on demand's another one. Any of these, right? You've heard of all of them. The problem with all of these is they miss that key component. And the key component is the absolute schlepping around learning how to do this. Because I could literally, if I have enough time and you give me enough money, I can teach anyone to be a good on-stage speaker. But one, if you don't like it, and if it goes against everything that you find comfortable, it's going to be tougher for you than somebody else. 2, if you're not very good at it because you're Liz Truss, or you're a not very good speaker, or you're shaking with nerves, I can help you with confidence, but I can't make you be a good speaker. So you've got to quite like it, and you've got to have some skill in it. And then the third part is, assuming those first 2 work, you've then really got to dedicate some time at it. And it doesn't matter about print on demand. It doesn't matter about FBA. It doesn't matter about any of these things. Get Si on here. It doesn't matter about any of these things. That's going to be the issue. What, get Si on in the room with me, Mr. Money? Is that what you're saying? I don't really know what I'm doing at the moment. I think I can, but I'm not too sure how to do it. I'm sure it's possible. So that's the whole issue with this scam your way to try and make money. And all the time, when you see people on TikTok and Facebook and Snapchat and Insta, and they're offering these amazing courses and amazing deals, the reality is they're largely true, but you've got to work harder at them than you ever realize. If you look at Forex training, right, they will tell you how you do this, and you do this, it's automatic, you make money. Now, if you've been doing it for 10 years or 15 years, it might be. I used to know a professional gambler. He would do 16 to 18-hour days. He had a bank of screens in front of him. He had 3 phones always going. He had a team of people to place bets for him. You couldn't relax with him for more than 5 minutes because his eyes would be darting to every. If we went to a pub, it was always the pubs that have got the sports betting up. His eyes were always checking to see if he was missing an opportunity. Now, that's the reality of it. I can't focus on Truss. She always sounds like she has a cold and distracts me. Do you use Shiba? I see what you mean about Truss, and no, I don't use Shiba. So let's get back to this whole point of making money. If you think about all the conversations you see online, you see on lives and things, I get asked questions all the time on TikTok. So I'm broadcasting simultaneously to TikTok here. I get asked all the time, what's a good side hustle for? And then you fill in your blanks. An 18-year-old who's just left school or college, somebody just returning to work, a stay-at-home mum, a dad who's got 3 hours spare in the evening. What's a good side hustle? There's no such thing. You've got to identify for you what's possible. And this is why I started out this broadcast by saying, what are the ways in which you can save money? Because if you're struggling at the moment to cope, in October, it's going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse because the cap for the energy charges, that's moving as we talk. That's going to be higher again, and we're expecting to find that out in September. That's going to be really, really high. So these constant outgoing bills are still happening. And people that argue, why shouldn't I be able to have an iPhone 13? Please listen to what I'm saying. You can have whatever you can afford. It makes no difference to me whatsoever. But you cannot simultaneously argue that you deserve an iPhone 13 and you can't afford a home. Because what we're talking about here is the compounding effect. If you make small changes further on down the line, the effect and the change is massive. If you can make a tiny change along the way, you can see a huge improvement. People into sports know this. If you start getting up 5 minutes earlier, that barely does anything. 5 minutes earlier and just do 5 minutes of sit-ups and press-ups. If you start doing that and you stick with that, you know that after a bit of time, it could be 3 days or 3 weeks, you're going to try a bit more. You might do 10 minutes worth of exercise. And these things start to have a rolling impact. You start cutting down on your midweek pint and a pie. You start walking instead of getting the lift up the last few flights. These things all tend to add on. That's the same with money. You make tiny changes, tiny savings that barely matter. They become something important and worth looking at. I can't focus. Yeah, do you Shiba? No. Ethereum looks like it's on a good run. Yeah, it could be. I don't know. And it's the other thing as well. It's like, what crypto should I get? What should I buy a property? This is the question I get asked all the time, right? What do I do to get started in property? And my question back is always the same. What have you done so far? I don't know. Now, you know why they don't know? It's because they're waiting to be told. And when they are waiting to be told, that is when somebody will swoop in, claim to be a millionaire property investor, claim to be a millionaire at 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 and never have to work again. But I love coming on these conferences and selling more courses. It's exactly the same strategy year in, year out. It hasn't changed. It was the same before the internet. So I'm going to start bringing this to a close in a bit of a moment. I will switch back onto TikTok for those of you that still want to jump into this conversation. Buy a shed on a 50-year mortgage. It's a lifestyle, not a fad. Yes, both of those things are right. Really, this broadcast, it's been a bit of a test for me on YouTube. I'm not on YouTube very much, and I'm just trying to nudge my way into YouTube because the monetization is better than TikTok. I'm coming back to TikTok in about 2 minutes, all right? So bear with me if you still want to hang around. Really what this is about, if you want more money, you've got to make those tiny savings. You've got to be really, really brutal and dedicated to what you want to do and what you want to achieve and why you want to achieve it. You want to stop messing around. Well, I can afford that. I can treat myself that. I've not been out for a takeout for 3 weeks. Oh, well, tonight I can afford. If you've got to do it, you've got to really do it. You've got to commit to it. Simultaneously, you've got to start trying to make some additional money. And if your current job doesn't pay you enough, stop complaining that your job doesn't pay you enough. There's no opportunities. You're going to have to move, or get a second job, or start your own business, or start a side hustle. And if you're going to say to me, I can't move jobs because I haven't got the education, you're going to need to get the education. And if you're going to whinge and moan and complain that it's just not fair, employers should pay a living wage. No, they shouldn't. They've got to pay the wage they got to attract the staff they need. And if they've got the staff they need, think it through. That sounds brutal for you. Yes, it is. That's what the world is like. No one really cares about you except your mum. That's it. The rest of the world moves on. And again, I'm not being brutal here. I'm not trying to be flippant or funny. I'm not trying to be shocking or horrific. I'm merely pointing out that when it comes to it, you've got to figure your own way through this world. And you've got to put your own breathing mask on before you try and help somebody else. It's not about selfish. It's about absolutely taking responsibility for you and your loved ones. That's got to be the game. Let me pick up this last few messages on YouTube, and I'm going to switch back to TikTok. My sister-in-law spent £13,000 on a property course. Oh, my God, that's painful. Couldn't work out how to insure an unoccupied house and had to come to me. It's worrying. Greg, it's such a common thing. I see it all the time in Facebook groups with people saying, how do I do this? How do I do this? I've just done this. I've just graduated, and they don't have the first basics. I follow on TikTok. Thank you, Mark. It's the same as when you say, yeah, but it's only £10. Yes, it is only in fact, £10. I love a side hustle that will make me £10 in a couple of minutes. In fact, let's say it takes a quarter of an hour to make me £10, right? In a side hustle. Most people don't get paid £40 an hour. That's the first point. The second point is, yeah, it's only £10. But if I do one of those a week, that's half of £1,000. If I up my output to 2 a week, I'm on £1,000. If I can drop my costs, if I increase my charges, I can make it £1,200 or £1,400, and so it goes on. That's the compounding effect. If you want to make money, you've got to start watching those £10 that Greg's talking about. You've got to start funding those £10 incomes, and you've please got to stop buying these scam courses that are everywhere. Now, if you've enjoyed this, please do follow. Please tell other people about this channel. I'm just about to close this one right now. I'm really looking to start to grow this YouTube, and I will join you back on TikTok for those of you who want to be there. Thank you very much for being here.